Hey everyone, today we are reacting to another clip from the Pangburn channel. Sam Harris debunks Jordan Peterson's postmodern Christ. It's a clip from their larger conversation that I've been going through for the last week. So let's get into it.
Well, it seems to me, though, like, and this may be my own idiosyncratic reading of the domain, but when I look at something like I've often considered a cathedral dome, let's say, and there are very, very old cathedral domes that have an image of Christ put up against the dome, right? So as creator of the cosmos, okay? And I'm trying to look at that from a psychological and even a biological perspective. And what I see is the elevation of a particular image that represents an ideal. And so the Christ that's represented on the dome of a cathedral is something that's projected up into celestial space. So it's an ideal to which you are supposed to be subordinate, or that you're supposed to embody. And the ideal is the ideal of the Logos. Technically speaking, the Logos, the Word made flesh, which is not only the Word, free speech for lack of a better term, but also the embodiment of that, elevated to the highest principle. And that is given status as the creator of the universe. And the reason for that, in part, and this is written.
So, just to jump in here for a second, Harris is going to rip Peterson apart, if I'm not mistaken, or he's going to try to, because Peterson is not interpreting Christ or Christianity in the traditional sense, in the literal sense. He's played rather coy whether or not he believes it in the literal sense. But he is taking the idea of Christ, as he says, psychologically, and is using his psychological understanding of it to defend it to Harris. And I'm sure Harris is going to blow right through it as saying that he's, as the name of the video is, being postmodern and is just doing interpretive acrobatics. I'm calling it now. I think that's a bit too cavalier, but again, we'll get there in a second.
Into the Judeo-Christian doctrine, right from line one, is the idea that it's through the discourse that you value so much that we actually engender the world as such. And
yes, in Peterson's defense, the idea of the Logos is in the Bible from like the very first words. It's a very big theme, so he's not pulling it out of nowhere by any means. But that probably won't stop Harris.
That is a divine principle, and it's also, in my reading, the divine image of God that men and women are made in. And so what I see in the underlying metaphysic, where you see superstition and fundamentalism, and look, fair enough, and it's not like I would ever argue that that's not a danger. I see the imagistic and dramatized representation of exactly the idea that you hold to be paramount above all else, which is your commitment to truth, expressed in speech.
Okay,
so one thing here, people call Peterson like an extremist, which is like the craziest thing in the world to me, because if you just heard him, he just hedged. He just said, like, yes, in religion there is a real danger of too much superstition and too much dogma. But if you look at the Bible as teaching you a lesson, if you look at what it represents psychologically and metaphorically does not mean less true. This is another Peterson point. Metaphorically may even mean that something is more true. He's saying that, like, look, Mr. Sam Harris, your ethic, the things you believe in about truth in the spoken word, is the Logos. It is the thing that Christianity champions as well. So he's saying that even if Harris doesn't want to admit it, his moral systems intersect with Christianity on a fundamental level. So yeah, I mean, people call Peterson an extremist, but he's making a very real and measured point here.
Concerned, and this is where I started with you, is that you could give the same charitable reading of astrology.
Right.
And you'd even be tempted to do it as we talk about astrology, as you showed at the outset. Now,
but I don't think why is it a charitable reading, Sam? Like, well, no, so how else would you explain the existence of something like a cathedral with that image?
Right. So Harris is going to take a hammer to this for a second, but keep this in mind when Peterson says this. Yes, he's doing interpretation. That's true. But Harris is calling it charitable, and Peterson laid out in a pretty strict way what it means psychologically, and he was pulling just from the book of what the Logos means, and higher means better. I mean, there's not too much interpretive acrobatics there, but despite what Harris might say in a second. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that reaction video. If you did, drop a like and please consider subscribing to see more. If you didn't, Tell me why. I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. I want to have these conversations. If you want to see the rest of my content or explore the broader Pangburn universe that I'm a part of, click one of the buttons that should be floating around my head right about now. And as always, I hope to see you all out there engaging in the war of ideas.